What's poppin', y'all? My name is Phyllis Mackenzie, and welcome to Care Life Podcast. If you love the expression of creativity in visual, performing, literary, and culinary arts, then this is the podcast for you. So subscribe and follow our social media pages through the link in the description and be part of the family. Now, let's dive into today's episode. I'm back! Kenzie is back and Care Life Podcast is back, hopefully bigger and better. We have been on a hiatus for the past 10 months plus. The last time I was on here was probably May of 2021, but we're back and I'm so glad that we're back. So this episode is the premiere of this new season. I don't know what this season will be all about. I can't give you a direction for this season. It will just be everywhere. But I have so much to tell you guys, which you'll find out on our social media pages at Podcast by Kenzie. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter as well. I'll be posting new updates on the show, new updates of our guests, and possibly what might be coming into the podcast or what changes might be coming into the podcast. But today, as you can see from the title of the podcast, I did some reading, and the reading that I did was Hamlet. And you might be wondering, why did I read Shakespearean works? Well, 1, I was bored, 2, I love reading, and 3, so that you don't have to. We all like to pretend that we love Shakespeare. Most of you, I know you pretend that you love Shakespeare. And one way to impress actual Shakespeareans is by knowing heart by heart his works. And today I summarized Hamlet, the entire play Hamlet. And this will be part 1 of the book, and you can join me on Thursday for part 2. By the way, every new episode will be uploaded on this channel on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a brand new podcast, which is Phyllis Mackenzie's Wicked Campfire Podcast. Stay tuned for updates about those. So for all those who love ghost stuff, who love haunted things, who just love the paranormal, that will be the place for you. And we'll be sticking to Care Life Podcast strictly for art and nothing more. Just art and books and paintings and performances, more of magic. Most of you told me to bring back the magician Jed. Probably will get him soon, and we'll see what's new. Anyway, about today's episode, Hamlet was written around the 1600s. We can't actually quite say which year, but just around the 1600s, and technically it's one of the most iconical and influential, and dare I say, popular stories in history. I don't think you'll go anywhere on this planet and don't meet 3 out of 5 people who have read or have an interest with Hamlet the play. And the whole story takes place in Denmark. Yeah, Denmark existed back then in the 1600s, surprising, I know. And at this time, Norway is planning to attack, and some stuff is happening in the royal castle of Elsinore that are highly suspicious, but it happens. Let me just say that every single castle has something that's always suspicious. I see you royalties. I know you're hiding something always that don't want the public to know, because probably it will kill the monarchy. But it did happen here in Hamlet, and the story is about Prince Hamlet Jr., who is the son of King Hamlet Sr. and Queen Gertrude. So King Hamlet Sr. dies even before the play begins. Tragic, I know. And his brother Claudius marries Gertrude and takes over as king. I know. Why in the world would you do that? That was your brother's wife, and why, as a woman, would you agree? Okay, this is the 1600s. I think I should step into their shoes, where women weren't given that much authority to speak or merely raise an opinion. But Claudius, mind you, Claudius is the brother to the late King Hamlet Sr. And immediately this king dies, he takes over the throne and marries the queen. So Prince Hamlet Jr. loved his father, and his death greatly affected him. And it's not always good. It's not a fun thing. And for Prince Hamlet Jr., it was like losing the closest individual in your life. The father was the closest thing he ever had, and now he lost him. Even before his story begins, he's already lost the one person who might have supported him throughout his decisions in this book. And he's very upset about it. He's moping around and saying he wants to die, blah, 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 typical stuff. And that's everything that he did for practically the first part of the book. Prince Hamlet Jr. was just purely upset. Was just upset about it, and he's moping around saying that he wants to die and that everything is just a big bag of bull. You can imagine how long that might have been. And it all begins in Act 1, Scene 2, from line 130. If you just read through that, that's where you'll see all his, for lack of a better word, tantrums mixed with trauma and sadness. I don't know how I can explain what the prince was feeling at the moment, but what he's more angry about is that his mother married his uncle Claudius so soon after the king's death. And like I said, when you just read right there from Act 1, Scene 2, line 30, going forth, that's when you'll see him projecting his anger. So most people would think, oh, he's just mad about the fact that his father is dead. But what made him even more angry was the fact that his mother married his uncle Claudius. Like almost immediately, his father died. And Claudius in this book is just straight up evil. He's like Scar from Lion King, just evil. Pure evil. He's the definition of evil. And now he's here capping about how concerned he is about Hamlet's behavior. So he and Gertrude are like trying to cheer Prince Hamlet up. And when that doesn't work, they get a couple of old friends of Hamlet's. Like, you see, when you have friends from college, back then they never had college, but they had this old chums thing. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were the closest friends that Hamlet ever had. So Claudius and Gertrude get these two guys and they ask them to spy on Hamlet. You can imagine that. Your parents just getting your two closest friends and asks your closest friends to spy on you. The good thing is that Hamlet sees through the white coat of lies almost immediately, and he's now trying to figure out what really happened to his father. But besides all this, we actually get to the creepiest part of the book. And it's creepy because, like I said, for those who believe in paranormal stuff, this will be an epic part of the book for you to read. So a ghost appears to Prince Hamlet, claiming that it's his dead father. And you know what happens when a ghost comes to you and claims to be something. There is a 50% chance that they're right, but there's also a 50% chance that that's a demon. So King Hamlet's ghost says shady Claudius murdered him by poisoning him through his ear. I need somebody to actually verify this. How do you poison somebody through their ear? You can imagine this ghost just coming to you and it's like, oh, Kenzie, your uncle Claudius was the one who murdered me by poisoning me through the ear, and I demand you, Prince Hamlet, avenge me by killing Claudius. You can see this in Act 1, Scene 5, from line 10 in between to 90. the ghost actually did say that. The ghost appeared to Prince Hamlet, creepiest thing ever. Appears to Prince Hamlet. The ghost says that he's the late king, that's King Hamlet Sr., and he tells the young prince that his shady uncle was the one that killed him by poisoning him through the ear, and now the ghost is demanding vengeance. And who's gonna do it? Prince Hamlet. And how is he gonna assert vengeance? By killing Claudius. Now this was one salty ghost. So he's like Mrs. Ganush in Drag Me to Hell. For anyone who's watched it, that's what the ghost was like. Literally a Mrs. Ganush from Drag Me in Hell. But instead wants his son to do all the dirty work for him. You know, if it was Mrs. Ganush, she would have done it herself. But in this case, the ghost, who had the ability to actually do it by himself, comes and asks his human son to do the killing for him. Hamlet isn't totally sure that the ghost really is his dead father. He could have just been a shape-shifting demon, but regardless, Hamlet agrees to kill Claudius. I mean, why would you believe a ghost? I know ghosts are out there, spirits are out there, demons are out there, and if one appeared to me claiming to be one of my dead relatives, let's say my dead grandpa, and then he's like, I need you to assert revenge, no ghost will tell you to do that. That's a demon. That's a demon. A good ghost won't tell you to kill anybody. That's a demon. That's like an evil demon, a spawn from hell, coming to you, wanting you to commit evil, and thus your soul becomes dirt. But we now enter the sus part of the book, the most suspicious part of the book. So in order not to look suspicious, he calls his friends Horatio and Marcellus, that he will act as though he is mad. Okay? So turns out that Hamlet had an extra set of best friends, you know, those close friends that your parents don't know about, like those really, really go-to friends that you call when you're actually in jail, those friends that won't rat you out no matter what. That's Horatio and Marcellus. Okay? They were like, boom, we'll do anything for you. So it just turns out that in order not to look suspicious, the prince decided to act all mad. So he goes on to make this more believable. He then meets with his girlfriend Ophelia and shatters her heart into a million pieces, like completely, by acting crazy and mean to her, telling her that he never loved her, not even a little bit, and to get to a nunnery. And for those who don't know what a nunnery is, it's actually a convent for priests and nuns and monks. You can imagine that your boyfriend just comes randomly out of nowhere and just says straight up to your face that he never liked you, he never loved you, and that you should be a nun. I'd break in tears. I swear that's the day that I would break if anybody would say that to me. Why? You might be wondering, why would he be so mean? And again, he was trying to make his I am crazy act believable. Because if he were to pull off killing his uncle Claudius without looking suspicious, he had to act mad. And he can't just act mad within the castle, he had to be full on crazy. So he went, boom, left his girlfriend, heartbroken, shattered, never to love again. And when this happens, you know who comes to the rescue? Ophelia's father. She never had brothers, but she had a badass dad. So Ophelia's father, Polonius, who is actually the principal secretary of state at the time, thinks Hamlet is high with love. So he's like trying to console his girl. It's like, oh my dear, he does love you. He's just crazy in love with you and is terrified. You know, I don't know what father would do that just to save his daughter from crushing. He has to pretend that Hamlet really does love her, and he did. This was all just an act. So the father was trying to console him, trying to make her believe that Hamlet really does love her and she has so much to live for, which actually contradicts him, because earlier on in the story, if you just get a chance to read through, you'll realize that Ophelia's father tried to convince Ophelia that Hamlet didn't love her at all. So this is just turntables. This is the girl Ophelia. Let's say, for instance, I'm Ophelia and Hamlet is by my side. I go home, introduce him to my father, and then my father, at the beginning, he's like, nope, he's not right for you, he doesn't love you. And then later on, Hamlet comes to me and says, oh, I don't love you, you should be a nun. And so I'm heartbroken, and to save me from the pain, my father comes to me and says, oh, don't worry, he really does love you. Do you see the contradiction here? Shakespeare, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? I know she is a fictional character, and I understand as an author that we can get a little crazy with our characters, but this was beyond it. This was beyond it. Ophelia had her character development and couldn't even get more than that. And honestly, if she never loved anybody anymore, I wouldn't blame her. I honestly wouldn't. You know? Who does that? I mean, who really does that? I'll leave you to think about that. Would you do that to your child? Just go onto the page and comment. Drop a comment on our latest post on Instagram and tell me if you would really do that as a father to your little girl. She might be grown up, but you know, you'll always be daddy's little girl and mommy's little princess no matter what. But would you try to convince your daughter that this man who just shattered her heart and told her to be a nun, not even to love somebody else, told her to be a nun? I can't even start thinking about it, because if I'm thinking about it, I'll start projecting anger towards a fictional character. And I don't want to do that. I honestly do not want to do that. Anyway, that was the first half of the book. The introduction, where we meet Hamlet and a father who just passes away before even the story begins. We meet this evil Claudius who marries the queen. Immediately his brother dies, and we get to understand why Hamlet is super angry. We get to another part, the creepy part, where the ghost of his dead father, I'm still convinced that was a demon. Anyway, whatever it was, the entity that appeared to Hamlet, pretending to be his father, and told him the whole truth, that Claudius was the one who killed him and that he should avenge him. We also get to the suspicious part of the book, where Hamlet decides to pretend to be mental, and we also introduce to his closest friends, Horatio and Marcellus, and we meet his now ex-girlfriend Ophelia and his father Polonius, who is Secretary of State. I wonder why they had Secretary of States back then. It was the 1600s. Why? Why would a king need a Secretary of State? Now I have so many questions. But Thursday we will get to the plan, the part of the book that I call the plan. We will meet Hamlet and his Scooby-Doo gang whodunit trick, and we'll find out what he actually did to Claudius. Did he kill him? Did he expose him? Did Hamlet himself die? Did the queen die? You know, somebody has to die. That's how a good book ends. Somebody dies in the beginning, somebody dies in the end, or
People die in the beginning, somebody avenges in the end. It's just a vicious cycle. Somebody has to die, and it's always multiple persons, not just one. That's how a good book is made. Anyway, join us again here on Thursday, this Thursday, same time, same place. And you can follow us on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Podcast by Kenzie. Drop a follow, drop us a DM, drop us a comment. We always reply and follow back. And also don't forget to check out this podcast on all streaming platforms. That is Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and all for those on South America, iHeartRadio, We Watch You. And for the rest of the world, if you don't have these platforms, that's okay. We are now on YouTube. Links will be in the description below. I hope you had a fantastic day, and see you Thursday. Bye.
And that will be it for this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcasting app, especially Apple Podcasts, and share it with all your friends. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, creativity is intelligence having fun. Until next time, #PodRock. What's poppin', y'all? My name is Phyllis Mackenzie, and welcome to Care Life Podcast. If you love the expression of creativity in visual, performing, literary, and culinary arts, then this is the podcast for you. So subscribe and follow our social media pages through the link in the description and be part of the family. Now, let's dive into today's episode.